high cost of drugs in America. This is an issue that keeps coming back. It was thrust into the national spotlight when controversial pharmaceutical CEO Martin Shkreli was forced to testify before the United States Congress on charges of drug price gouging. The hearing shedding light on a very critical issue surrounding the pharmaceutical industry. Eli Lilly Chairman and CEO John Lechleiter is joining me right now to talk about that and what's happening at Eli Lilly. John, it is always a pleasure to see you.
Nice to be here, Maria.
Thanks so much for joining us. You're working on important drugs. One of that is the area around Alzheimer's. And I always say that if we were to see a company come out with an Alzheimer's drug, I don't know what they would charge, because we all know that if we live to 85, 1 out of 2 people will get Alzheimer's. Where are you on the Alzheimer's drug first?
Well, you're talking about our antibody, solanezumab. We announced results from 2 phase 3 studies in the summer of 2012. Those results we did not meet our endpoints, but the results were positive enough to encourage us to do an additional study. That study's underway. We're treating patients for 18 months versus best standard of care. We'll have the data in the 4th quarter of this year. So the challenge is, yes, we have to prove the drug. We're really, the industry, including Lilly, is really trying to prove the hypothesis. Does removing this amyloid plaque or its precursor slow down the progression of the disease? That's what we're all hopeful that we're able to see, but not proven yet.
Well, what I'm getting at really is the fact that you need to see more money, investment, time, energy going into the research and development of things like this, because this is something that affects all of us. And how do you balance the idea that you need to make investors understand that, yes, if you invest in this, if you put money into R&D, you will see a return, so that they think that they will be able to see, you know, a company be able to charge for it. But at the same time, you have to balance. You're in a business where you have to balance the fact that people have to afford this.
Right.
How do you do it?
Well, first of all, I think we have to maintain a long-term time horizon. We've been investing in Alzheimer's for over 25 years. I asked the other day, what's the cumulative investment over that period? Our guys tell me about $3 billion over 25 years. We don't have anything to show for it yet. We think in the next 2 years alone, Maria, we'll spend another $1 billion. So our investors have to have this long-term point of view.
Right.
And I believe that for a pharmaceutical company, you know, to make it today, you have to balance off these big long-term bets in Alzheimer's with other therapeutic areas that hopefully have better defined mechanisms and pathways, that you essentially have a little bit less risk bringing new drugs to market.
What is the answer to making drug prices affordable?
Well, I think, first of all, in all the rhetoric, and there's been a lot around drug prices with the presidential campaign underway, we've got to look at the facts. At retail, prescription drugs have been 10% of total health care costs since the 1960s, okay? Mm-hmm. Even with a spike in 2014, and that's the figure that's quoted. 2014 drug prices rose, I think, 14% when you look at retail plus non-retail sales.
Right.
Well, what happened that year? We had a new hepatitis drug introduced. You had patients waiting, literally, for that drug, which is not a Lilly drug, but which cures in over 90% of the cases. So 2014 was an aberration. Just last week, new data came out for 2015. Drug price inflation about 6%, a little over 6%, about half of what it was the year before. The Congressional Budget Office, or I should say CMS, predicts drug prices will continue to really track health care inflation out through the middle of the next decade. So I think, first of all, we've got to look at the facts. Secondly, we've got to say, why do consumers experience how do they experience drug price inflation? Right. Well, as I say, drugs 10% of total health care spending, but they're 40% of what we as consumers pay among our total out-of-pocket for health care.
Right, I understand all that, but I mean, I'm talking about that person with cancer who unfortunately has to get their dosage, and their dosage is costing them $500 a month or more.
It's extremely important to the companies in our industry that are research-based like Lilly that we do everything we can to ensure people can access and afford our medicines. At the extreme, we have patient assistance programs that have helped millions of people since the middle of the last decade afford drugs. People who have no insurance or indigent, have other circumstances, we have programs that step in and cover it. On the other side, in terms of people being covered with insurance, which is the majority of people in this country, we're really arguing that insurance should reflect the value, the way insurance covers with these co-pays and co-insurance should reflect the value of medicine. I mean, if you're paying 20% of the cost of your medicines out of pocket and only 5% of the cost of hospitalization, I think we've got it backwards.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. Well, the story of Eli Lilly is a lot of products, and you're affecting a lot of different disease. Let me ask you about oncology, what you're working on there. Where are we on the fight in cancer, against cancer, and what are you working on specifically in oncology?
Well, I think the story in cancer in recent years has been immuno-oncology. In other words, can we harness the body's own immune system to turn on cancer cells? Imagine if we could do that. In so many ways, our immune system protects us from everything else. Can we trick the immune system into attacking cancer cells? This is the cutting edge of oncology. A couple of companies are further ahead than Lilly, but we've got some really exciting plays in this area. In addition, we're launching new drugs. We just launched last month a drug called Portraza. This is for people with squamous cell, non-small cell lung cancer. There really hasn't been an advance in terms of increasing survival in that type of tumor for 20 years. So a lot is going on in oncology. We're starting to really harness the science and come up with great new medicines.
I feel like there are a lot of promises in the pipeline right now as it relates to cancer. Are there more drugs right now in the pipeline than ever before, or how would you gauge?
Across the industry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think oncology is the hot spot right now.
Right.
And one reason is because we have more clues. We have more evidence based on the science about where to go to prevent cancer or stop tumor growth.
Before you go, what's your take on Zika, the Zika virus? How soon, how long will it take to get some kind of a vaccine on the market, do you think?
Well, we're not in the vaccine business. Obviously, we're following that story very closely. But if diseases like AIDS and others historically have been any guide, I'm confident that we will come up with a solution, and we will come up with a way of dealing with this healthcare crisis.
So the growth at Eli Lilly is where in the next 5 years?
The growth in the next 5 years is from our launch products that are launching or soon to launch. We have 2 autoimmune drugs under review by the FDA right now, a drug called ixekizumab for psoriasis, a drug called baricitinib for rheumatoid arthritis. So the Lilly story for the next 5 to 7 years is going to be a new product launch story.
And I know viewers out there want to make sure you've got success with that. John, good to see you.
Good to see you, Maria.
Thanks so much for joining us. John Lechleiter there, CEO at Eli Lilly. We're watching